What is up, YouTube? This is Hypergun here at Chat with the Cat, back again for another video. This time we're going to be doing part 2 of my 5-part mini-series, my favorite moments in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, last week, or the week before technically, we went over my top 5 favorite moments in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! So this week we're going to be covering my top 5 favorite moments in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Now, just as a brief recap, what I'm considering is a moment is anything that happens in the series that is notable or worthwhile. And it can be a duel, it can be like a couple of episode little mini thing that they're doing, it can be anything, even exchange dialogue. As long as it stood out as memorable, I'm counting it. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started on this, Hypergun's top 5 favorite moments in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Okay, so admittedly my number 5 pick is kinda cheating. I'll own up to that entirely. My number 5 pick is actually the intro to the Darkness arc, Precious Time, Glory Days. Now, I realize that seems like it's kind of copping out. Just, you're picking the intro? Really? That hardly counts. They showed it a million times. Yeah, and I loved it every single time. Like I said, a moment is anything. If it was on screen, it counts. And the intro for me is just that. It was a moment I loved to watch. Every time I would watch an episode through the Darkness arc, I would happily sit through and watch the intro because it was just so good. It hyped me up. It really got me excited for what I was about to see. And I didn't even like GX that much, honestly. And I still loved that intro. Back when I did my top 10 outros and intros, that easily would have made number 2 or 3. Easily. But that's just how I felt about it. It was such a cool intro. It really hyped me up for the series, which is what a good intro is supposed to do. But that's really all I got to say about that. Don't worry, I don't pull that anymore. The rest of the actual entries in this are legitimate moments, not me trying to cop out or anything. But anyway, moving on to number 4. So, my number 4 favorite pick actually comes from my favorite arc from the GX series. That's the Light of Destruction, you know, with the Neospacians get introduced, and you got Sartorius, who's being controlled by the Light of Destruction with the Arcana Force monsters, which actually helps me segue nicely into my number 4 moment, which is a duel of Sartorius. It's when he faces off against Chaz and recruits him into the light, I guess. What I loved about this duel so much is that it really did kind of show off that Sartorius was a fortune teller before he was possessed, and that his deck, the Arcana Force monsters, were symbolic of that since they represent tarot cards. I always loved watching this duel because Sartorius just, as he does with pretty much every duel he has up until the final one, and even then, he controls that for about a good portion of it, he owns that duel. Like, it looks to Chaz like it's a two-way match, but no, Sartorius has managed to, at that point, turn the game of Yu-Gi-Oh!, a normally 2-player game, into a single-player game of solitaire. He's just toying with Chaz. He knows he's going to win because fate is on his side. That's never explained, it just is. But I just always loved seeing this duel because Chaz is trying to fight the fact that he believes he's still in control of this duel, and he is so many different kinds of not in control of that duel. It's just a fun episode to watch because it truly emphasizes the power that Sartorius has, which you don't usually get that out of a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Villains. I mean, they'll do it for some, like Bakura and Merrick. Even Pegasus, they'll establish their power beforehand, but later on they don't really do that. Like, they don't really do anything to establish it for the Shadow Riders and the Sacred Beast arc. They don't really do a whole lot for Yubel until, like, halfway through to the very end of it. And hell, even when we find out who the real bad guy is in the Darkness arc, we don't get a whole lot on that. And they do that so often with pretty much everybody in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. We never get a true chance to establish their power except for a set few prior to the final duel. And Sartorius is one of those guys that we do get to see it for, and this duel truly does show just how dangerous Sartorius is. Helps make him one of my favorite villains out of the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, and easily earns that duel spot at number 4 on my list. But now we gotta move on to bigger and better things. That's right, number 3. So, my pick for number 3 is actually involving another one of my favorite characters from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, that being Zane Truesdale. The person I feel more emphasizes Kaiba as a rival than Chaz ever did, but that's just me personally. But the moment I'm referring to is actually when Zane unleashes his true evil nature. Again, this happens during the Line of Destruction arc, part of the reason why it's one of my favorites. And when this happens, he's currently in a underground cage match. I don't get how they made it a cage match, but whatever. And he's facing off against this slime user, and he's just destroying him because Zane is trying to play it fair. And after a while, he realizes there is no fair in this game, in the real world. You gotta be hard, cruel, and do whatever it takes to survive. And so he unleashes his true dark nature. And it just always gets me in... Roll the film.
Yet another win for Zane Truesdale. I'm telling you folks, this bro is dueling like a man possessed. Could the secret to his recent success be in his edgy new look? Perhaps. All I know is Zane Truesdale is back on top.
I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure the secret is behind that edgy new look. God, does that look awesome! Anyway, that's really all I got for that one. Let's move on to number 2, shall we? So, hilariously enough, even though a majority of my entries so far have been about showing off the power of cool characters, this one's actually more about character growth. My number 2 favorite moment comes from the Darkness arc, in which it's a tag duel featuring Jaden and Alexis against Hasselberry and that girl that was obsessing over Jaden in the first... I don't remember her name to save my life. Anyway, it's a tag duel between them, and during it, Jaden has been... up to this point, Jaden's kind of been... how to word this delicately? An ass? Yeah, he's kind of been blowing off his friends because of all the events of the 3rd season where he had to merge with his inner demon, the Supreme King, as well as with Yubel. And because of that, it's kind of affected him. He's not the happy-go-lucky Jaden he has been for the previous 3 seasons. He's now a much darker, moodier Jaden. And so during this duel, Alexis is kind of getting fed up with this crap because she's struggling on the inside. She doesn't know what she wants to do with her life anymore. And now she has to deal with Jaden kind of being stuck up a-hole. So after a while, Jaden finally comes to and has this little exchange with Alexis that, for me, really does kind of emphasize just how much that moment made him grow as a person. And it's always really just kind of gotten to me, and I can't really put it into words, per se. But I can show you.
よかった。
アスカ、あとは任せたぜ。
ええ。でも、私たちの場にモンスターはいない。剣山君たちの場には、攻撃力3600のスーパーコンダクターティラノ。どうやって戦えば。
なあ。伏せカードくらい、ちゃんと確認してくれよ。
え？リミットリバース。墓地から攻撃力1000以下のモンスターを特殊召喚するカード。
Now, that may not seem like a whole lot to you guys, but during that duel, Jaden actually kind of cost them a chance to do some serious damage because he didn't check on Alexis's face down cards, and so that really pissed her off. So the fact that he's actually going back and doing this has kind of shown that he's willing to trust people again like he used to. It's a moment that's always really just kind of touched me, and even though I'm not the biggest fan of GX, even I can appreciate something like that. But now we gotta move on past everything else and move on to my absolute top #1 favorite moment in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. And I can promise you, it's gonna be great. So, here we are at last. My #1 favorite pick from all of the moments that could have possibly happened in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX ever. And, of course, the only way I could think to end it was to go all the way back to Season 1, during the final duel, the graduation duel, between Zane and Jaden. Now, it's not really the duel itself. While it was an amazing duel, that's not really what I'm talking about specifically. What I'm talking about here is actually the final turn of this duel. Not even the turn, the battle of this, the final actual clash of the monsters, in which I believe it was Cyber End Dragon going up against Elemental Hero Tempest, both of their best monsters that have been revealed at that point. And during this moment, Zane is kind of, having a moment with Jaden, telling him that now that he's going to be gone, Jaden is going to be the best duelist. And he needs to represent Duel Academy well and show what the best is truly capable of. And Jaden's response is just, you know what I'm gonna do. Okay, so I should probably watch these videos before I actually do these things. Turns out it was Shining Flare Wingman, but my point still stands. That moment for me is just so amazing that Jaden is not only willing to get past the torch that way, but responds immediately by saying, not only will I be the best, but I'm going to be at least as good as you by proving it and making this a draw. And that, for me, truly speaks volumes on Jaden's character. Even if it is still his early character and he hasn't gone through all the growth that he will in the Darkness arc, it's still amazing just to see what kind of a duelist he is. And it's part of the reason I like him so much as a character during moments like this. But that's all I got for you guys for my favorite moments of GX. Let me know what you guys think down below. Were these some amazing moments? Did I miss any good ones? What are your favorite moments? Don't forget to let me know down in the comments below, as well as like my Facebook page so you can let me know there. Of course, don't forget to also like my video and subscribe to my channel. And until next time, peace.